All right. Welcome, everybody, to season 2, episode 9 of the Table Talk podcast. As you all know, everybody, I hope you know that my name is Omar T. I am one of the hosts of the show. Next to me, you got my little sis, Sada Thabit, in the building. She's one of the co hosts as well. And then to the left of me, you got big sis, Abir Thabit, one of the co hosts as well. And then our guest for today, I'm excited about today's show, even though today's show is somewhat a serious conversation. I'm excited to have these kind of conversations and to hear what the guests have to say today. So first of all, one of our guests for today is Sister El-Amin, Davine El-Amin. I'm sorry, Sister Davine El-Amin, who is the chairperson of Majalis Ashura board at the Muslim Center. And then next to Sister Davine, we have Brother Khalil MuMinun, and he is also a secretary at the Majalis Ashura board and also the founder of the Detroit Dawah project. We appreciate both of them in the building today. I'm going to have them introduce themselves a little bit more and stuff that they do as well. But wanted to make sure we give the introductions out, and also wanted to tell everybody how to follow our pages. Be sure to subscribe to our pages: YouTube, Oz Media 313, Facebook and Instagram, Motivate Me 313. You can listen to our show later on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. We are also now on TikTok under Oz Media as well. And if you want to call in, and hear, I know this conversation today, we want to share your thoughts on it. Feel free to share your thoughts on it. By the way, Brother Khalil and Sister Davine, I sent y'all the link if you guys wanted to, if you're in groups or anything like that, you think that this is an important topic to people you feel like should watch the show live. Obviously, you can send it to them later as well. They can watch it later on YouTube. So with that said, today's topic is about unity in Islam. This is something that is very important in all religions, but we're going to focus on our religion today. And that's why we're here today to talk about that. But before we get into that conversation, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Our sponsors is BC Adhesives, the Balkan House Restaurant, Hanley International Academy, and Qahwa House. And I'm going to give a shout out to Qahwa House, who had their 5th store just opened up in New Jersey. So round of applause to Qahwa House, Brother Yusuf. Appreciate it. By the way, Brother Khalil, that's my little brother Yusuf, the producer. Other little brother, Zach, and nephew Ramsey, Sister Davine as well. Yusuf, you got Zach. You got Ramsey right there. They're in the back. They're from the Movement podcast. You remember them, Sister Davine. Yes. They were there this last weekend. So with that said, give a shout out to Qahwa House. Yusuf, can you please run that Qahwa House ad right quick? The Qahwa House. The Qahwa House is the first coffee shop of its kind. The Qahwa House is a family business established in 2017 for the sole purpose of providing the best quality Yemeni coffee with no added preservatives, artificial additives, or flavors. You can stop by Qahwa House to try their famous Yemeni latte, Adani Shahi, Mafawad, and Jubani coffees. You can also stop by to try their delicious pastries, such as the Yemeni favorite Sabaya, their sembusas, and their new menu item, Everything Mini Bites. There are currently 4 Qahwa House locations, with 2 of them coming soon as well, to make it a total of 6. Their 4 locations is West Dearborn, East Dearborn, Williamsburg, New York, Lombard, Illinois, with 2 new locations coming in Canton, Michigan, and Petersburg, New Jersey. So no matter where you're at in the country, be sure to stop by a Qahwa House and get a glimpse of what the Yemeni culture is all about. Yeah, so we just got Brother Khalil just asked me where can he get this Qahwa House from, and I had to tell him the locations, man, because this Qahwa is tasting really well. So with that said, this is the time where I like my guests to introduce themselves a little more, tell us a little bit about what y'all do, and we're gonna get into the conversation. So, Sister Davine, we'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and then the things that you do?
Oh, a little bit about myself. Assalamu alaikum. Hey, family. What do I do?
What don't you do? I guess that's a better question.
Let's see. I'm mother of 4 adults, 8 grandchildren. So I play granny a lot, and going to work. I have been at Ford Motor Company for 28 years. I've been elected in the UAW. I've served as every elected position, dang near, let's see, district, alternate, bargaining, chairperson, first woman national negotiator for the UAW Ford agreements. And currently I am a power distribution electrician. I've been on skilled trade since 2012. Me and my brother Khalil share that. He's a master electrician. I am not. I am just a journeyman powerhouse distribution electrician. We actually are everything after DTE. So I work today, so typically I'm not looking like this. I'm uniformed, and I typically have a switching gear on, so because I handle 13,000 votes on a regular. So, but alhamdulillah, in my spare time, what I like to do, my passion, is giving back to my community. And I find myself a lot at the Muslim Center and other areas in our community that finds my heart. Khalil's project, Chill Don't Kill, is one of our um, times we like to get together and just go out and give the best dawah to the community, which is just talking to them and giving. So I find myself helping with that sometime. We're scheduled to pass out turkey soon with Chill Don't Kill. But at the Muslim Center, I am the chairperson of the Majalis Ashura, which is our board of directors. Also, I'm the co-chair of our soup kitchen and food pantry, and currently working with UHF, United Humanitarian Foundation. Shout out to Sister Iman and team. We're currently launching used to be Sisters Closet that provide the needs for our sisters in our community with hijabs, abayas, the new shahadas, or maybe someone just needs some opportunities to get clothing for a job interview, etc. Now the needs have expanded since post-pandemic, and now we're looking to make it a family's closet. So we have things for the children, things for the family as far as dishes and housewares, and as well as the brothers. So we're grateful to Allah to have these partnerships, and that's why we're excited to be here today.
Yes. That definitely deserves a round of applause. The producer's on top of it today. I think he got some coffee too. You got some coffee this morning? I mean, is that okay? So first of all, shout out to Sister Davine. You know, she mentioned Principal Iman Ahmed. I mean, I call her Principal Iman Ahmed, but awesome lady. She's gotten me connected with a lot of great people. Then I got connected with Sister Davine through her, and I'm glad. Once we talked, I was like, yeah, I could already tell that energy we needed on the show.
Alhamdulillah.
We need that energy on the show, alhamdulillah. And Brother Khalil, believe it or not, we've had him on the show. There was an event last year at, what's the coffee place in Hamtramck? Dose of Sugar. So Dose of Sugar, there was an event, there was a gala, and Brother Khalil was the speaker there, and we went live. So shout out to Brother Khalil, he's back.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Brother Khalil?
No doubt. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa dhurriyyati ajma'een. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So alhamdulillah, we start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending peace and salutations upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We openly bear witness and testify that Allah is one, and he has no partners and no equals, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. First of all, I want to thank you, Brother Omar, alhamdulillah, for inviting me back. You know, I guess I didn't do too bad of a job the first time.
You did a great job, man. You did a great job, man.
Alhamdulillah, man. It's always a pleasure, you know, and it's always a blessing whenever we connect, man. You got something Mubarak going on to invite us to. So appreciate you, man, inviting us out, you know.
Of course.
Alhamdulillah, just, man, a little brief thing, you know, just a struggling Muslim brother, you know, trying to do some good in the world, you feel me, and trying to, you know, hold a candle to what my sister is doing. All of that, she said, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
She usually, you know what I mean, she be like, you know, the female version of Superman, Clark Kent.
Yeah.
She hop out of the SUV in her work uniform. Then she getting ready to go to a gala, you know what I'm saying? She hop in there, hop back out. She looking real fresh, you know what I'm saying?
She's looking great today, too.
Allahu Akbar.
Thank y'all.
So, yeah, you know, she be moving around a bit, man. And you know, just with me, alhamdulillah, one of the main things that I'm really excited about right now is this Dawah effort that we're trying to reinvigorate in the city of Detroit. You know, the Detroit Dawah Project, you know what I mean? Go ahead and check us out. Search us on Facebook. You know, she mentioned I'm the founder of a nonprofit called Chill Don't Kill, which is essentially another function of da'wah, you know, just really trying to get the Muslims out of the masjid and back into the community and connecting with the people, you know what I'm saying, in the spaces where they move around in, you know. So, that used to be a huge characteristic of the Muslim community, you know, prior to us a generation ago, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we inherit that legacy of people really getting out and beating the streets and connecting with the people, you know what I'm saying? So especially in a place like Detroit, you know, that was like a real noticeable, active part of our culture here as Muslims, you know what I'm saying? To really have that rapport with the community where they really look to us, you know what I'm saying, as the moral examples, you know what I mean? They look to us for a perspective on what was going on in society, but we've kind of gotten away from that. So, you know what I'm saying, being from Detroit, you know, and being aware of that legacy, still having the people around us that are living, you know, these are our elders right now, but, you know, hearing the stories and really, you know what I'm saying, drawing from their example, man, we trying to like really put it down in our space and time in our generation and keep that legacy going. So, alhamdulillah, man, we're on like our second year. I've personally been active in Dawah since like 2009. You know what I mean? Where I was doing it in a very organized way. You know, started when I was in D.C. Organized with some brothers at Darul Hijra Masjid and Community Center in Northern Virginia. You know what I'm saying? A couple brothers got together. We got all the permitting and things. You know, if you're familiar with the National Mall, you know, when you go down there, it's a very international space. You get people from Japan. You see all the.
Are you talking about the mall in Minnesota? Is that what you're
No,
referring
no,
to?
no. This is the National Mall. So it's
Okay.
in downtown DC.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it's like the Smithsonian on one side, museums, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? All of that, the Washington Monument, all of that,
Yeah.
right? So if you move around in that space, you see people promoting, you know, their political ideologies, whatever, different things going on. So I said, man, where the Muslims at? You know what I mean? So we put it together, man, a couple good brothers there. And yeah, man, just been rolling with that consecutive years. So when I came back to Detroit, which is home for me, in 2012, you know, I just, you know, keeping with that motion, wanted to reinvigorate a Dawah effort here. So, you know,
That's,
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alhamdulillah, man. Alhamdulillah for everything, man.
I mean,
Great introductions. Great. I appreciate you guys sharing that. And it's important. And, you know, my next question, I know you guys kind of touched on the work that you guys kind of do with the Muslim Center, but is there anything you want to also mention or maybe you've forgotten? I know the soup kitchen, there's a soup kitchen every Saturday that you always help with as well. Can you want to tell us about that?
So the Muslim Center has been functioning with a soup kitchen, I think, for over 34 years now. Last year was 33, so it's 34 now. And even during the pandemic, you know, we didn't miss a meal, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
I can remember a lot of things are going down. The masjid was closed. People couldn't come in and pray. They couldn't come in to use the bathroom.
It's crazy. I
Yeah.
remember that, you know?
Yeah,
It just
right.
happened.
But one thing that we all agreed on, all our board members, is that as the community is in a place of uncertainty, the first thing we cannot do is stop what they expect, which is the food, and to be able to provide some sense of normalcy. And that was making sure that we got out and people were masked up, gloved up, and we got food to them. And they could come knock on the door, and we hand a bag of food out the door. They couldn't come in, but they got the food. So I co-chair the pantry and soup kitchen with Brother Omar Peterson. He is another Ashura board member. And it was supposed to be a temporary assignment, but I can't tell you that it goes smooth all the time, but I would just miss it if I didn't have any help. Any participation in it. It's a group effort. It's not just me. Certainly Omar and I have the bulk of the responsibilities in terms of just organizing people, looking for sponsorship, trying to make sure we come up with a game plan, going grocery shopping, getting the food there. It's a lot that's entailed, especially when you're working 6-7 days a week. But alhamdulillah, I'm always grateful, even when it gets crazy. But a lot of people that are behind the scenes that help us, Brother Sadiq, Brother Clifford, Sister Akua, Sister Hanifa. It's so many people. I don't want to start naming names. I'll forget people. But even UHF, for example, one example, that's how I met Iman, right? The times that people decide they want to come out and help is that the bonding happens over feeding people and kicking it with them while they're eating and, just listening to their stories. And I used to see Iman just come out. I really didn't know her name. I used to see her face frequently. And we just connected one day, and it's been a connection ever since. And we started having just basic conversations about what could we do more than this, right? How can we connect our communities? We start talking about, perhaps we'll do sisters' teas and get the young men that play basketball at the masjid, invite some of the other communities out to play basketball. And then, it just started from there. Like, hey, can I get sponsors for you? Hey, do you guys need any help? Hey, during the pandemic, she called me like one night, like, hey, I want you to put a list together. What do you need in the kitchen? And at the time, we were struggling, right? We had a lot of little issues at the center. Financially, again, we are nonprofit, so we're supported by the donations of the community and some sponsorship. So we were struggling too. And she just happened to say, "Hey, listen, give me a list of what you need." And I remember submitting a couple of lists and she wasn't satisfied. Eventually, that resulted in the Muslim Center getting over $13,500 worth of commercial kitchen equipment, which was vitally essential to us preparing wholesome, good meals in a safe way, in a safe manner. So shout out to UHF again. We feel so blessed to have these type of partnerships, and that's why I'm even glad to be here tonight, because it gives us an opportunity to talk to people and let them know, we gotta do more, and we gotta do more together.
I'm so happy you used that word because I was about to say together. That's what the conversation is about today. It's about unity, and I'm happy. I wanted to start off with this because to let people know, because once we get into the conversation, that not everything that we've had experience is always bad, but let's address it so that we can continue moving forward and moving in a positive direction.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much, Sister Davine, Brother Khalil. What's your connection with the Muslim centers? You mentioned a couple things too, like what you do. Do you give khutbahs there too, by the way?
No, not as of yet.
Inshallah.
But alhamdulillah, there's a lot more to do in terms of like serving the community. Besides giving the khutbah, and I try to be active in different things. So my relationship with the Muslim Center started many years ago when it was just a small slice of what we have there now. It started out as a smaller bank that was there at one time, and this was early on in my life as a Muslim. After I reverted and what have you. I started out my life as a Muslim over in Highland Park. But, at that time, I had a beautiful naivety about me in that I thought, wherever there were Muslims, that's where I belong. And that was the truth. That was the case. But I slowly became aware of differences and things that separated us ideologically, within, different schools of thought and what have you. But at least, like I would say, the first 5 years or so functioning as a Muslim, I really considered myself to be a part of all of these different masajid that I became aware of. And the Muslim Center was one of them in close proximity to Masjid Noor in Highland Park, where I accepted Islam. So I would come there and they would hold different activities, different programs, really geared towards the youth. They would have poetry slams and stuff like that. So, I'd always pop in for stuff like that and just maintain a presence there and support, in that way. But more recently, I would say like in the last 2-3 years, I was nominated to be on the board there. And so I've taken more of a role administratively in trying to keep the place, functional and what have you. But over the years, just, I've been involved in putting on programming there for brothers. We launched a program that we started there called State of the Brotherhood, where it was really about, getting the brothers in the community to line up behind some of the responsibilities that fall uniquely on our shoulders as men.
Yeah.
And so, that was something I was very proud of.
Can you give an example of that, by the way, of what is some of the things you guys did, like maybe being a tutor for the younger generation? Like, what is that?
Well, that particular program was it wasn't, something where we got into the actions that it was more so, us encouraging one another to get more involved in the community.
Okay.
And there was some logistical challenges that we ran into with running that program, and we weren't able to reach the culmination of what we initially started out with our idea for the program. We ran into some administrative challenges that kept us from moving forward. But that was our niyat starting out, was to identify what those rights and responsibilities were, and then to move on to actually having people be active in those areas. But
Yeah.
again, there was some challenges there at that time. This was in like 2016. But nevertheless, just over the years, always lending a hand wherever there were programs going on. The winter program that was very popular there prior to COVID kind of shutting down a lot of the things that would happen regularly there. That was like a big major program that during December that the community loved. And so anytime anything would go on, I'd be there and try to be supportive.
Nice.
Yeah.
My sister Sada and sister Abir, you guys, I know, I'm sorry, I probably haven't dished it to y'all yet. You guys, any comments so far, Sada?
No, just hearing that the work that you guys do is really nice. And I wanted to know what was where exactly is the location for this specific mosque?
1605 West Davidson Avenue, Detroit, Michigan 48238. That's on the
You see
corner.
it all the time.
And you even got the
Do I?
zip code.
Listen.
Right before you go to Davidson, going back to 6 Mile, there's that
Muslim
masjid
Center.
right there. If you ever take the west side, you'll see it. I mean, trust me.
It's right on the corner
Yeah.
of Woodrow Wilson and Davidson. Like if you go to the Lodge Freeway,
Yep.
you've passed it.
You passed it. It's like right there.
It's right there on the corner.
I read any thoughts?
I didn't want to cut you off, but how many people do you guys serve each
I
side?
was-
So it that varies. It just depends on a lot of conditions. Sometimes it depends on the weather. It depends on the first of the month when food stamps are distributed, or when they run out. And so I just think that consistently, we'd run anywhere from 75 to 100 families per week.
Wow.
Yes, and we figured out how to feed those many people for about $150 per week.
Oh, wow.
And you can get water, you can get a nice hot meal, and one of our main mottos, Omar and I came up with this, is that Omar Peterson.
Yeah.
That's what she turned like.
Yeah, I was a little confused.
I can't get the credit. Shout out to Omar Peterson, by the way. I met him too. Great guy. Brother Bilal, Brother Hamza.
Yes,
everybody there.
thank you, Brother El-Amin.
Yeah, Brother El-Amin.
All those brothers, they helped, and sisters. We don't serve food that we wouldn't eat ourselves.
Oh.
So commonly, when we're not getting it sponsored, we're in there cooking in the kitchen, and we're sitting down eating with them. You know, I've gone to some soup. I've been doing soup kitchens my entire life. Being a member of the UAW Ford family is something that community work we do. And I can tell you that I've gone to some of these soup kitchens, and not to put anyone down, I wouldn't eat that food because it seems like it's slopped together. And I'm real stickler about not throwing food together, making it look sloppy. I want people to feel like they're being serviced. I want them to feel not like they're being put down for getting a handout or hand up. So we do it with integrity, and we do it to be humble, because we're trying to please Allah. That's it. We ain't trying to get no pat on the back. We ain't trying to run up nobody else. But literally, I'm so funny about food. We try to make sure our standard is very high at the Muslim Center.
Yeah, and I bet eating with them keeps their dignity as well.
Absolutely. We've come to make relationships with a lot of people. Khalil has a chess club that he runs on the weekend. And so kids from our community, as well as the community abroad, non-Muslims, they'll come and they feel like part of the family. We have a young man, what's his name?
Ryan
Ryan.
and his mother,
His
grandmother,
grandmother.
Dolores.
Dolores.
That's Dolores.
And when he first came, I think he's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So,
But very brilliant. Very sharp young
very
man.
brilliant.
Usually, that's the
And let me
Right,
tell you,
right.
one day he said, how do you say it? I said, Assalamu alaikum. He nodded his head. He came back the next week. He was like, Sabr al khair. And I was like, what? Got me off guard. I was saying, what?
Yeah.
And every week he comes with something new Islamically. And I laughed to myself saying, Allah guided him here.
Yeah.
And his grandmother shared with us is that he was being ostracized from different groups and things and never could fit in. He feels so comfortable at the center, and his face lights up and her face lights up because he's happy, So it's just one of the things. We know when we sit and make relationships with people like that, it just is, it encourages you even when you're tired. Like, I don't feel like going up. Let me get up and go. Because, people depend on that,
So I have another question. If one wanted to volunteer, how can they go about that?
Okay, area code 313-883-3330. That is the Muslim Center's main line. You can leave a voicemail. Our admin, Sister Anissa, will get back with you. Or you can give me a call, 313-205-8912. Or I'm going to give you Brother Omar's number. No, I'm not, because I can't All right, Brother Omar, I didn't ask to give your number out on air. I said I won't. But you can always give us a call. You can call the Muslim Center's main line. It's very easy to sponsor. It's very easy to come in and volunteer. Now that the school is back in session, a lot of the college student associations are coming. They're coming and they're volunteering and they're excited to help. And we're excited to have them because it really is a group effort. Like I said, again, sometimes we're tired. And so I'm looking forward sometime to say, oh, yeah, you want to go ahead and cook? Go ahead. So we have plenty of conversations around cooking the food, just the love that comes from preparing food and then serving the food. So, yeah.
I know our NHS is always looking for organizations that can help out. So definitely
Come through.
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Muslim Center. It's a really great. I mean, it's a community that sticks together. People that work together through any issue, and like I said, they're welcoming to anybody that comes from. It doesn't even have to be Muslims, you know. It doesn't have to be Muslims. So they're welcoming to everybody, and the impact that can have is tremendous. It's tremendous impact on the community. So with that said, you know, again, we're here to talk about unity in Islam. So my first question is, why do you think unity in Islam is important? And Abid, I'm gonna put you on the spot because I'm gonna ask you first. I'm sure there's hadiths out there.
Yeah.
And you know what, Brother Khalil, do you have some? Do you have one or
No,
no?
I just
Okay. Well, I was let Brother Khalil. I want you to, because I'm sure you know of like a hadith or a surah probably that talks about. Go ahead. I mean,
Let's go.
first. All right, do you-
take a minute. I mean, if you want to.
Let me ask Sheikh Google. Just playing. No.
do you have a?
Well, I mean, alhamdulillah, you know, the first thing that we want to do is look at what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has said to us regarding that. And, you know, the famous, well-known ayat that we all know is وَتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. You know, where Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is telling us to hold on all together by the rope to the rope of Allah and be not divided.
Yes.
Right. And so, you know, in that we find that there's always something of major significance in anything that Allah tells us to do, right? Whether or not we realize it initially, if we just follow this path and this understanding of figuring out ways to collaborate, to come together, you know, the wisdom and the meaning of what Allah Ta'ala asks us to do will become more and more apparent to us. We'll begin to see the fruits of the things that Allah asked us to do or commanded us to do. And so that's the case with everything that Allah asks us to do. And with regards to unity, there's an inherent challenge with that, you know, because you have different thoughts, different ideas, different perspectives that have to learn how to function in the same space with the same goals in mind. And so although that might seem to be something that is not practical, you know, because we tend to want to align with like minds. We want to find people that think like us, and so that there's no opposition to what we want to do, what we feel inclined to do. But through this coming together of different ideas, we have to grow and evolve in the way that we compromise and in the way that we take from different ideas and then come up with a better idea. And this is the concept of shura. You know what I mean? We come together with our ideas and we make our best determination, and then we put our trust in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And so, like, through that process of coming together, we're put in touch with latent abilities as human beings, you know, and also other characteristics come to the fore, right? Where we have to exercise patience. We have to, you know, exercise listening skills. And this is something, you know, you learn over and over again. No matter what you thought you understood about listening, there's always another lesson for you to learn, and especially after you get married. But no.
I like it. That's true.
I see you're watching this.
No, but that's, you know, that's the foundation for us. You know, this is what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala wants from us. And you see this manifesting itself in a variety of ways, you know, in our religion, you know, with Yomul Jumu'ah, we have to come together. So always in coming together, Allah is commanding this of us. There's something that we have to realize that up to this point we have not, right?
Yeah.
And so many things become available to us that we're unable to do singularly, right? And so, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. No, that's a beautiful answer. I bet I'm sorry. Now we could, you know, what are your thoughts? Why is it important to have that unity in Islam?
No, just like the Prophet taught us, you know, the Muslims as a ummah should be like a body. When one part is hurt, the whole body should feel it. You know, so if one group needs help, we should all come together and help out. Even if one group is doing really well, we should be happy for that group instead of, you know, being in competition or whatever. So we're one at the end of the day.
Sada, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, just like our brother said, when everything is when we're all together, everything ends up working out, you know, more easier. And like Abra said, if one is not doing well and the other is, we should be always, you know, unified and in together, and in a sense of there's no difference between any of us, especially with the Muslim ummah.
Sister Davine, what are your thoughts on that question? Why is it important?
It's important for all the reasons you all stated. I guess what I'm thinking about while we're sitting here saying how important it is some of the experiences we've shared where it has not always been how we're saying it so perfectly, right?
Yeah.
How easy.
Talk to us about those experiences, because I mean, you're just rolling into the next question, Sister Davine. You're great at this right now. You're great at this, because that is the next question, because I wanted to start off a little fluffy, but now we're going to get right into it.
Gritty. Get gritty.
Yes. So, like, you know, we've all, I'm sure, probably had different experiences at different moments, you know.
Sure.
And the reason why I wanted to come up with this question is because I know that we probably all maybe have a story, and I think we all kind of witness it, no matter what culture you are or what, you know, color of the skin you are. You know, I could walk into a masjid, and it's vice versa. People walk into the Arabic masjids and Yemeni masjids, and, you know, in a place where you're there to worship Allah, you feel like you're being judged by people just because of your color, your skin, your gender.
And you could also be in the same culture. Yeah, you know.
You're not from their community, like as in like, you know, a Hamtramck person going into a Dearborn mosque
Yeah.
or something like that, and vice versa. They come to the Hamtramck mosque. So, you know, can you tell us maybe some experience that you may have had, Sister Davine?
Let me share this. Turning 50 years old this year, right?
Wow.
Alhamdulillah.
50 years young.
Yeah, you took it out of me.
My experiences now come in hindsight, right? And a lot of reflection. I can tell you that my children, now that they're grown, they've shared with me some experiences that they shared. Matter of fact, just recently, my 20-year-old who goes to India, who goes to Michigan State. And India, I sent her, I remember it was so, you know, incumbent upon me. She was the only child that I felt this about. I mean, maybe I felt it for the other ones, but whatever was going on in my life, working, being mom, you know, going to Dearborn schools was good enough, right? Because it's Muslims, and they wouldn't be getting their head scarf snatched off and people running down the hall. Because when I was a kid, it wasn't many. I went to a madrasa at some point, but at some point I went to public school. So when I went to public school, it wasn't nothing for once a week for my scarf to be snatched off until my older sister came to the school and they stopped it. But, you know, that, to be honest with you, I said, I don't want my kids to feel ashamed of being Muslim or feel like they got to be harassed to be Muslim. So I thought my kids going to Dearborn Public Schools, they went to Stout. Shout out to Brother Mansour. And, you know, they went to Edsel. They briefly went to Dearborn High, but my point is that I felt very great about that until they got grown and shared stories with me, right? But I don't want to share the other kids' stories. I will share with you India. I sent her to, what is the name of that school that I paid all that money to go? Out in Ann Arbor. She went to...
Pioneer?
No. Right next to University of Michigan off of Plymouth. Oh, my goodness.
Are you talking about college?
No. High school, middle school. It'll come to me in a minute. But she went to that school. Maybe I should leave it nameless because what she told me is out of all the kids that went there, she was one of 3 black children, right? All Muslim. And she said that she had maybe 3 or 4 friends, but she was primarily ostracized. And she also noticed how the girls were treated much different than the boys. And just being a student, she was like, they would always let the boys have gym and have fun and run around, and the girls had to sit down and we couldn't have time to run around. And I was like, what? Why didn't you never share this with me when you were going to school? And she said, well, Mom, you know, I know how you are. You probably came to the school, blah, blah, blah. And it was a good foundation for her. She learned a lot about Islam. She learned a lot about her studies. So it was a balance. You know, she's a good student, alhamdulillah, but at the same time, she was missing some things that my work schedule couldn't teach, right? I wanted her to understand what it meant to be Muslim and learn Quran, learn Islamic studies, you know, so the things that I learned when I was a child. And she did. She used to come home and she would say, hey, you got one little hair peeking out of here, pull it in, you know. But she would correct me on my pronunciation of different surahs. But one thing that I take away from that is today, when she reflects back, she talks about how indifferently she was treated. And,
At school too.
Yeah, at
And this is
school.
at school, so it's not just outside in the community. You know, this is it goes back to people being young and
Yeah,
you know something that they learn at a young age.
right. They learn it somewhere.
Sometimes-
They learn it at home.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's even the teachers or you know the admin as well.
Correct.
So it's not
Correct.
always-
Allowing things to slide and stuff like that.
Correct. Correct. And she shared those things with me. But the only thing I can say about my own personal experience is that, yeah, and I live in Dearborn. So, and I've been working in Dearborn for the last 28 years. And so I'm always so happy that when I see a Muslim say assalamu alaikum, and sometimes I get, oh, hi. I said assalamu alaikum. I didn't say hi. But you know, I had one young lady one day when I asked, I said, why'd you say hi to me when I said assalamu alaikum? And she said to me, I thought you were just saying it because you thought you had to say it. And I looked at myself and I said, no, I'm a Muslim. I had my uniform on that day too. So again, you know, I guess to give her benefit of the doubt, my head was covered, but she didn't see an abaya and she didn't see things that I guess she recognized for me to be a Muslim. And I said, I don't have to be a Muslim for you to say wa alaikum salam.
Yeah.
But we had a small conversation. This was at a restaurant here in Dearborn, and she just said that she, you know, basically takes offense when people think that they got to say assalamu alaikum versus saying hello. And I was shocked by that. She was a little young. She was a lot younger, but that's been my experience a lot. I mean, it gets better because I think the older I get, I'm so blunt about saying, hey, I didn't say hi. I said assalamu alaikum. Or when the brothers be like, hey, baby. I said, no, I'm your sister. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Oh, wa alaikum salam. This was here in Dearborn. You know, maybe I go to the gas station to get some gas. It's, hey, baby, what number you want it on? I said, no, I'm not your baby. You know, and I'll correct people. But we're just talking about the common respect. I just feel like sometimes, and I could be wrong, I don't think that if I look like you, then I would have got the hey baby, you know, I would have got the sister, you know, assalamu alaikum, or what, you know, and, you know, it's just our experience, right? I guess I could talk on and on. Khalil, what's been some of your
Will you let this brother moderate the show?
I'm trying to get it off of me.
No, she's doing a great job. She's doing
No,
a
I
great
mean,
job.
it's very unfortunate. I do want to like kind of piggyback off what you're saying. It's very unfortunate that people don't see you by your, you know, your faith instead of they're seeing you by the way that you look and making assumptions of you and who you are. And but like she was saying herself, Sada was saying, you know, even with us being, you know, born and raised here, when we go to the masjid that was in our own community, like they're a lot more, they don't know the language or whatever. They automatically assume that we're stuck up or that we're, you know, this or that or whatever. And it's not fair, and it's not, you know, for me, it's like as if they're, you know, just ignorant at the fact that at the idea that you show respect to everyone. It doesn't matter if the person, even if you weren't wearing a hijab, you know, there's no reason why somebody should be telling you, hey, baby.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's just, it goes way past that in that aspect.
Brother Khalil, brother Abdullah Qasri, I know you know Abdullah, brother Abdullah. He just
my
sent
man.
me the popcorn emoji because he's loving the conversation.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, but you know, any personal experiences that you may have had?
Man, the sisters were coming so heavy right there, man. And I was just really appreciating what they were offering. And it kind of speaks to, like, you know, how judgmental we can be. And we use, like, superficial markers to decide, like, who we're going to extend that respect and that honor to, you know. And it's unfortunate, you know, because Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, لَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. Like, He has ennobled the children of Israel. I mean, the children of Adam, pardon me, Bani Adam. And so, like, as Muslims, having that principle, you know, solidified in our deen, by Allah mentioning it in the Quran. It's unfortunate that we don't resemble that by extending honor and dignity and respect to every person, regardless if they, are dressed a certain way or not. This is a human being, and we should not make a snap judgment like that on people, So and I just wanted to really emphasize what the sisters were discussing there in that regard, and really caution us as Muslims, as a community, to be more aware, man, be more cognizant, be less judgmental on superficial things, in that way, and work ourselves into a position where we unconsciously extend honor and dignity and respect to anyone, regardless of how they're dressed. But as far as my personal experience with, can you rephrase the question again?
Yeah, basically, what is any experience you may have ran into where you felt like that you weren't a part of the community?
Oh,
yeah.
Where I feel like I wasn't?
Yeah, or like you felt like an outsider when you really shouldn't be feeling like an outsider.
Well, it's an interesting thing about that. I feel like I've had a variety of experiences, not all of them negative. When I started my little family, when I was in my early 20s, I know what y'all thinking. Y'all like, oh, that was like 5 years ago, right? You know what I mean?
You do look. I'm trying to debate how old you look.
Yeah.
We had a discussion after the cameras go off.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
No, I put myself out there. How old are you again, Brother Khalil?
Y'all really want to know? Okay, we'll say that for the last segment. You guys stick around for that answer. Stick around for
I'm
that
about
answer.
to Google it. Don't worry. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Okay, but when I started my little family, we were renting right in the middle of Hamtramck, which is like, predominantly Bengali Indian, and only little black family, you know what I'm saying, right there on Gallagher. And I just had such fond memories of being in that space and being so engulfed in a different culture, a culture that was other than my own. And people were very loving and respectful of our presence there. You can actually get that on Google. I don't like that, man.
See that?
I don't like that. I don't like that, bro. But like I would come out my house and on my way to the masjid, several of my neighbors would invite me over for tea. Coming now, tea, brother. Coming tea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why you gotta
Like
make that
a lot
voice?
of
Why you gotta make that voice?
Cause that's it. You living over there long enough, you start picking up the little accent a little bit. But no, man, it was just like really a beautiful experience. I have very fond memories of that, and it's a very interesting thing because when I was growing up, prior to accepting Islam, we actually lived in Highland Park, it was in close proximity to the Masjid Nur community. And so, like, without being Muslim, it was like you could be right near a lot of, a Muslim community, a restaurant, and not have any connection with it. But once I became Muslim, these things became visible to me. And so I was instantly living in the same city that I was always born in. I had access now to this whole world of people, you know what I mean? A different collection of people from all over the world. And so, with that came a variety of different experiences, not all of them negative. One of the, I guess, unfortunate experiences, I guess you could say, with being different in a community of there was predominantly a different ethnic group, actually happened through my children. They were going to a particular elementary school that shall remain nameless. And I started to get them coming home and telling me, about things that were being said to them by the other children, and racial slurs, comments being made, and knowing as an adult that these things weren't coming from the children themselves. These things were being said, being learned in their home environment, and so we are very aware of the challenges there, but I think we have to balance that with the positive. Sometimes the the negative things become so pronounced in our minds, you know,
Yeah.
that they really overwhelm our perspectives and our attitudes, and it's not really a fair balancing of the times when there were positive experiences.
Sure.
So, you know, we can't be, you know, so you know, rose-colored glasses the way we see the reality. I mean, the way we see the world aspirationally, but we don't see the reality of the condition, and we can't be so focused on the negative side of it that it affects our ability to engage with positive expectations, you know, because that'll come across. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, great point. Great point. I'm glad that you guys say that because, you know, we can talk about it, but, you know, it's one important to notice that it's not the only thing that's happening, right? Because there's
Certainly.
positive stuff that's happening as well. And two, you know, we you know, we could discuss it and then hopefully talk about how can we move forward again with keeping the positive mindset. So, did you have any experiences before, like maybe at a different mosque or different situation where you felt like you weren't involved or part of that certain community?
Yeah, I was. So this has actually happened. I was in Arabic school, and this actually happened again. Like I said, it happens even culturally. So you know, I'm pretty tan compared to a lot of, you know, other Yemeni or whatever like that. So I'd get that used to, that because of the backlash of, you know, other people, that used to be an insecurity growing up, and now I love everything, you know, alhamdulillah. But so I remember we were in Arabic school, and I was like, I don't know, like 10, 11 years old or whatever, and like the teacher was explaining how like if you wake up for Fajr, you know, on time, it brings your face nude, or you know, and one of the girls was like, well, it looks like, you know, Sarah doesn't wake up for Fajr because her face is
Stop.
darker than all of ours.
Oh wow.
La ilaha illallah. La ilaha
And I remember, yeah. And I remember trying so hard not to cry because that was very, very like a slap in the face or very disrespectful. And I was just like, and like no one laughed, you know, or anything like that. And like obviously the teacher like had to talk to the student. But like I remember just like, why, you know, like
Why would you say that?
yeah, why would you say that? Like it was very hurtful, but obviously
And you know, she says she was 10, 11 years old too. I didn't
Yeah.
know about the story. So like for that,
I was debating if I wanted to say it, but I was
yeah.
like, no.
No, it's good that you said that because for that student to think like that, obviously Sada is not the only person as this color. There's plenty of
Yeah.
people in this world, and again, 10, 11 years old. This is not this person just saying that. It's coming from the house. It's coming from home, and so for her to say that, imagine all the people that they just immediately have that kind of mindset towards, and it's bad because the kids are saying this, and you mentioned the kids, and you mentioned your kid, and you know, so it's kind of scary.
Kids are not like adults. Sometimes adults don't say what they're thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They have a filter most of the time, but like kids are just what they know, like what they've learned, what they've heard, what they
What
you
they
know.
saw.
So they're just like easy to just say.
Yeah. How about you? Abed, any experience that you may have had?
I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I've had people like judge me because like I might not know much because I was born here in Yemen, especially when I used to go to school in Yemen. Oh my God, I was bullied like it ain't nothing. It was crazy. Like I would go home crying. I mean, and that was in middle school. I wasn't a kid, and so people are mean, and
Yeah.
And again, like the reason why I asked this is because, you know, we mentioned the ayah in the Quran that says, you know, like holding a tight rope and stuff like that. And you mentioned how it's important to listen to these things because there's deeper meanings behind and you might not know it till down the line. And it's sad because it should not be this way, you know, and it needs to be said, you know, I think Islam, when you look at it from an outsider perspective, you know, we can simplify what it is. Love, respect one another, you know. Obviously, we have our 5 pillars. You know, you do that, and you follow the deen of being just a good person. It kind of will just come naturally to you. All the other stuff will just come naturally to you. And I think we complicate things.
Yes, we do.
I think we complicate things as a community. I think we complicate things, and that's that's why we're running into problems. I think we are getting away from the root of what this religion is all about, which is peace.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's why. It's like this stuff is happening because I think a lot of egos is being involved and kind of leads to my next question of like, I guess why? Why do you guys think this stuff is happening? Like, well, go ahead, Abed.
Okay, so back in the day, we can all say that there wasn't a lot of Muslims in the community. There was a lot, but not as much as now. I feel like when it was less, everybody leaned on each other. Everybody helped each other. Like you didn't have as much, masjids opening up. It was a lot more, for me to say, understanding. But I feel like now there's so much. Like just think of Hamtramck. It's a 2-mile radius city. There's at least six,
Yeah, 6-7 miles.
masjids and maybe even more.
Yeah.
And everyone is in their separate masjid. No one likes to do things together. Their Eid festivals are separated. Everything is just separate. And when I got the chance to spend Ramadan, like the last couple of days in Dallas, Texas, they're a huge Arab Muslim community, but their imams are visiting their mosque, and their imams, like it was such a unified, Muslim community where there wasn't all different races, all different people. Like it was just much more. So it's not about. I feel like it's more of
The people,
yeah,
like in the community.
yeah, 100% than Muslims.
And I
Because
think
when I went outside the community,
Yeah.
I was able to see that, and you feel more comfortable. You feel more welcomed. I'm telling you, the imam didn't just stay in that masjid and that's it. They would visit each other's mosques. They would give khutbahs together. They would give lectures at night. Like they would visit each other's
and they're
masjids.
from different races.
100%. And it was beautiful to see.
Yeah, I really don't understand why it's like this in the Hamtramck, Detroit area, but in Dearborn, like it's bad. What do you think, Brother Khalil? Like, why do you think it's like this?
Man, it's a lot of things, you know what I mean? But one of the things that I noticed that it manifests as, different people trying to attain spiritual supremacy.
Yeah.
Like we want to dominate the spiritual space, rather than see ourselves as contributing in a unique way, but also needing other contributions to make a whole and balanced community. And, like I said, in my early experience as a Muslim, I developed a habit of moving around to different masajid. And the thing about that is, number one, I developed a comfort level there, but I also began to see how doing that presented a unique opportunity for me to grow and develop, and by drawing from what each place had to offer. And there's invariably going to be different types of light that are present in different people, and so there's no reason for us to deny ourselves, what someone might have to offer in one place because we find fulfillment in another. There's it's just like, if you think as an analogy, when Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala created this planet, he didn't put all of the natural resources in one space. They're spread all over. You have oil here, you have diamonds here, you have iron here. And so, that's sort of like a good analogy for human beings, you know what I mean? Because, we come from the dirt, and, we have different qualities and characteristics that exist within us. And it's different lights that are a reflection of the Muhammadan light, present in different people. And so I've always kind of been inspired to sort of encourage that type of relationship to evolve within a space, that is comprised of different masajid, different jama'ah, to try to, and that's why, I was particularly drawn to the Muslim Center, because the Muslim Center is a place where the environment is very suitable for different groups to come and be there. There's no overwhelming presence where if you don't align with one particular school of thought, you feel ostracized or alienated, and I'm drawn to that, me personally, so I don't want to talk too long.
No, I appreciate it, man. And by the way, I just want a quick note. Rashid Mehdi, you know Rashid, right, Brother Rashid?
Yeah, that's my man.
Yeah, okay. I just want to let you know, man, he's one of the people I look up to, man. Great guy. So ever since I was a kid, he's been in the circle that I was hanging around with, my older cousins and stuff. So he'll tell you, man, you give him Rashid a shout out. Shout out to Rashid. I know he probably might end up watching this too.
Rashid who? What'd you say? I didn't say Rashid who?
Oh, I thought you was being funny. Rashid Mahdi.
Oh, the Mahdis. Oh,
Yeah.
The magic.
Imam Mahdi.
That would have been a
all
good
right.
joke. You should have went with that.
Oh, no, well, I know.
He would have loved that.
I just didn't hear.
Yeah.
No, the Mahdi family is very present in our community.
We've had him on the show, by the way, a few
Yeah,
times.
alhamdulillah.
Rashid and his wife and sisters, they've came on the show.
Brown bandages.
yeah.
Shout out to
Yeah,
brown
shout out to
bandages.
Facts.
Yeah.
Brown bandages.
Yes.
Shout out to
Brown
bandages.
Well, so what I was going to add to that conversation, I'm glad Khalil kind of segued into the Muslim Center. The Muslim Center, because of its location probably and because of its history, everybody kind of comes there, especially for Jummah. But recently, I think the pandemic brought this need out, right? Because when I grew up, it wasn't at the Muslim Center, by the way. It was in Detroit and Highland Park communities. But I will say that we were coming together. And I don't know if it's based on what you said, hey, it was not that many, and it seems like it's so many now. What I do remember, whether you belong to this masjid on the east side or the west side, when it was time for Jummah, you came together. When it was time for Eid celebrations, you came together. We had community dinners. We're starting to see that again. And we're also starting to see this, what people want. During the pandemic, when we had masjids shut down and people couldn't come pray next to each other, and then even when we reopened, right, and you had the restrictions of, pray 6 feet away from each other, and, and I said, man, Shaitan must just be really loving this scenario. Because, I grew up, look, you had to make sure
Toe to
your
toe.
foot, make sure your foot and your shoulder was right next to each other. But, alhamdulillah, for something to be taken away only for you to say, man, I didn't know what I had until it was snatched away. To speak about that, there is an intentional effort going on right now since the pandemic had started, where all of the Jamaats in Detroit, all the imams are trying to make sure that they're part of trying to work together. And the last few Eids we have had a community Jummah directly the week after the Eid. So, we're working on constantly trying to do things to promote each other, to come together, to stop our egos and just become one. And that don't just stop in Detroit. We're trying to do that. And like I say, that's why we're sitting here tonight, because again, this has to be an opportunity where we understand that we're better together. We are more effective working together, pooling our resources together. And it ain't gonna happen overnight, but that is definitely the intention and the vision of making us better as Muslims. Someone said to me not too long ago that we have to create our narrative. We should be out here leading the conversations. Today is the election day. We need to be out here voting, but we'll get so controversial that we don't want to get involved. And how you going to have, if you don't get involved, how you going to have a voice? And then you don't have to be elected. And this shameless plug, congratulations to my play little bro, Adam Sabri, the 36th district elect judge down at 36th District, joining his sister, Judge Aliyah Sabri. They're having his celebration tonight. And I'm looking like I'm going to miss the celebration. But congratulations, Adam. So proud of you joining the ranks of justice. And I know that you'll be suitable for the job. But in saying that, we need to have those presence. That presence. His father, our first Muslim and African-American county treasurer, Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We need to have this type of representation out here so that people understand that when we get involved and they see the examples of how we are as Muslims, I don't believe that when they look at Brother Eric or even Adam when he gets the opportunity to serve, or Aliyah, that they say, oh, don't deal with them because they're Muslim. I believe that even if it's understood, that what attracts people to you is your behavior and the way you are fair and you're just. And that should be an example for our community. And I just say you don't have to be elected. You can be involved at every level to make a better way for your community. I'll say again that so many people reached out to us during the pandemic, hand sanitizers, food, money, in different ways that we needed it. But I'm thinking about the owner of Greenland Markets right now, Brother Haji Haider. And, he, through Iman, he was a resource to us. And he said, hey, what can I do to help? And so we still got hand sanitizer. Thanks so much for that. We're still distributing it. But speaking specifically to coming together, right? If we don't come together, I believe that's going to be our biggest downfall if we don't work together. And so, like I said, I'm so happy to see, and again, I play a really sometime controversial role as being the chair of our Majalis Ashura, in terms of, in one breath you have to help meet the needs of the community and bring services and activities and things people want to see. But people have to come get involved. That's the biggest thing that I can take away from this conversation. The more people to get involved, the better it becomes. You want to see something done better, just stop complaining. Just come help. You don't like the void or the lack between our communities. What can you do to promote some togetherness like we're doing right now? You invited us to your show so that we can have a voice. Let's start creating that. Let's start encouraging each other to say, let's stop with the dynamic of, well, she's brown, he's black, or he's Yemenis, he's Lebanese. I'm telling you, Iman and I she had some sisters over a couple of years ago. We were sitting in her living room, and she said, yeah, that is not just specific to the African American community, the black community. She was like, man, you should hear the Lebanese and the Yemenis go at it. And I was like, really? I get, because I didn't even think about it like that. But on a positive note, just think about if we all came together, what kind of positive effect the world could feel by Muslims taking lead and being examples out here in the world.
100%.
I just had some chills going through my body because I was just thinking about it, like the message that you can send to the world if they seen, 4 or 5 different races walking to a mosque.
Yeah.
3 or 4 different, you got brown, you got white, you got black, walking into a mosque together, and praying together and breaking bread together.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say anything. The action speaks louder than its words. That's why when people see pictures of Mecca and they see all these different background races and stuff, people get inspired by it because they see that everybody is, together.
No matter how poor you are, how rich you
That's
are.
right.
You don't even know who's poor, who's rich.
Yeah,
They're all wearing the same. They're all doing the same thing.
And I think we bring that to a community level. That could be a very impactful thing. And before we continue, I do want to run the Hanley ad and go over the last a couple of questions. So, Yusuf, if you want to go ahead and get the Hanley International Academy. By the way, the school that my sister and I at Beer work at, by the way. So we're both teachers. So shout out to Hanley International Academy. Hanley International Academy. Hanley is a school that treats every student and staff like their own family. It's even in their vision statement, educating your child like our own. Did you also know that Hanley offers a virtual academy? So if you're looking for your kid to sign up for an online school, look no further than Hanley's Virtual Academy. But if you're looking for face-to-face, Hanley International Academy is located on 2400 Denton Street, Hamtramck, Michigan. The athletics there are great. The academics there are great. Shout out to the whole staff for being great teachers and educators for our leaders of tomorrow. Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Shout out to E-Man. Says he's watching. Got to give a shout out to E-Man whenever we can. Seriously, she's great. She's great. So
I'm trying to be like her, man. She got like several shout outs.
yeah,
She getting a lot of love.
man.
Almost
Like real talk. Like I can't tell you like how much she's been an impact, and a couple of these ladies that we've had on the show, and then just been constantly just giving me ideas, people to come on the show, just connections, being the middle person in a situation.
Like, you should see the gala that was the all-women's gala that just happened.
Which I didn't know that you were on the board, by the way.
I was one of the guest speakers as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's on the board. I didn't know that. Know that. So that's great. That's great.
The sisters coming together that day, it was beautiful to see, honestly. Even the speakers she had lined up, like, it just gave me something to look up to, and just made me feel good about, who we are and what we're about and
Alhamdulillah.
all that good stuff, honestly.
Yeah, that was very powerful. All-women's event, and we are raising money for the humanitarian efforts of Yemen. And not just Yemen, it's so generous of UHF and Sister Iman and her team to say, hey, I want you to get up there and ask for support for the Muslim Center. I want you to ask for support for the Sisters Closet, our soup kitchen. That's what I talked about. If you remember, I said, if you can ignore your brothers and sisters in the city of Detroit or the neighboring communities, they're suffering, what made me think you're going to reach back out to Yemen and say, hey, let me take care of Yemen? You may say, well, it's too bad what's going on, but I'm in my house in Sterling Heights or my big old house wherever you live, and shout out to whoever got a house and is doing well. But one of the things we talked about that night is that at the end of the day, what does all that matter if you don't give back and you don't think about those that you could help, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot can snatch all that away in one half of a second.
That's
And we
what's
should
wrong with us.
definitely feel blessed that we have the opportunity to help someone out.
Absolutely.
Because that is our, ticket to get at the
Yeah.
end of the
For
day.
sure, for sure. So, what do you guys feel like is the biggest factor of like why or holding back unity in Islam? And I guess I didn't put this on here, but ideology definitely should be in this category.
Yes.
Race, gender, or it could be something else. What do you think is like the biggest factor that's holding back, unity in the religion of Islam? So I'm looking at you, Brother Khalil. I'm gonna ask you first, Brother Khalil.
Alhamdulillah. I think, when we have this discussion, there's several things that come up regularly that are often touched upon. But one of the things I noticed that isn't often talked about is the avoidance. As Muslims, sometimes, we avoid issues that we feel have a potential to blow up in our face. You know what I mean? That we feel by addressing has the potential to make it worse. You know what I mean? And so, like, we just take a policy of avoiding that altogether.
Like what?
Yeah. Well, don't get me started. No, but particularly on this issue of unity, right? So, for example, we deal with unity, but we deal with it at a very superficial level, at a very surface level. And I think we do that for a number of reasons. One is that we feel that it's going to challenge us in ways that make us very uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? And so take the issue of race in Islam. The standard response amongst Muslims when the issue of racism comes up is that there's no racism in Islam.
Yeah.
There's no racism. And this is true on a certain level, but it's also very dismissive of the real problem that exists. You know what I'm saying? But people feel as though, maybe they aren't equipped to really get into the nuance of what happens in the dynamics of racism as it plays out in our community. So there may be a genuine reluctance to deal with things that you don't feel you're prepared to deal with. But nevertheless, by not challenging ourselves to have discussions and we gotta create a space where it's okay to not be exactly perfect in how you say things and how you do things. Because what happens is when somebody makes an attempt to deal with race and they don't say everything worded right, then we want to brand them and we want to push them to the side as an offensive type of person. You know what I mean? But this is one of the things that Malcolm left us. When he was dealing with racism, rahmatullah alayhi, the most intense form of it that I've ever seen, in the 1950s and 60s, with the way white Americans were openly, attacking, killing without consequence, anyone in the African American community. He said the way that you deal with it, a black man has to be able to sit down and speak his mind without fearing the consequence of that white man. That white man has to be able to sit down and speak his mind. So he was in favor of people being very forthright, even to the point of potentially being offensive, you know what I mean? And not sacrificing the truth for the sake of, being worried about being offensive, And so, like, we have to be real. You know what I mean? We have to be real about race. And this is one thing I think we really avoid in this discussion. It's okay to have a love for your people.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, Muslims in general, they tend to want to discourage us from touching on that because they feel that there's a danger of falling into an extreme, unhealthy type of self-love. And that's legit. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't want to encourage or push people in a direction that will be detrimental to their faith. But it's not something that you hear said in Muslim spaces. Anytime that the idea of loving your people is the topic, it's always addressed in a negative, where it's like, hey, don't be around here, talking about loving your people. But then this happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, in one hadith. A man asked him, is it asabiya, is it blameworthy nationalism to love your people? He said, no. only when you support them in doing wrong. And so whenever I've heard this hadith brought up, there's always emphasis on the part of not supporting your people in doing wrong. And there's a glossing over of his initial response, which was no. There's nothing wrong with having an affinity for your own people. This is a very human thing. You see what I'm saying? It's a very human thing. And, it's the same thing for your family. You're going to have more love for those within your family than you have for another family. Does that mean you hate the other family? No, it just means there's a natural love and affinity for your family. And the same thing is true for our peoples. You know what I'm saying? We have a particular love and an affinity for ourselves as African Americans. We have a particular love and affinity for ourselves as Yemens, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And our unwillingness to address that and to embrace that truth is like really at the core of where a lot of our problems emanate from, that unwillingness to deal in the truth. And so when you take the African American community, we have embraced Islam at a moment in our rehabilitative process where in an attempt to correct the wrongs and the trauma that was visited upon our community, you got to understand that there were very deliberate things being done to separate us from all the human characteristics, right? The love for the mother has for the child, to have the child ripped away from the mother at the time of birth, so many atrocities, all of the gynecological studies that were done on women, on black women, without any type of sedative, right? All of the advancement in that area, that field of medicine, is due to the African American women that were experimented on during that time. You know what I'm saying? And so, there was so many things done that were intended to rob us and strip us of all these human characteristics. And the love for self is one that process is still going on today with how we're portrayed in the news. There's an intense focus on all the negative things that happen. We're always being shown ourselves in a negative light. We're very cognizant of this and the strategy involved. And so as Muslims, we're involved in the effort to rehabilitate our people in this area of our lives, right? And so onlookers, our non-Muslim brothers and sisters, see us trying to affirm ourselves and our love for our people, and they have the knee-jerk reaction to say, "Oh, you can't do that. This is trying to puff up your own people." No, you don't understand where we are in our growth and development. We're coming out of a very specific experience here in this country, and we're trying to put back into place some of those things that were stripped from us. And so, this is the problem. Our inability to get deep into that discussion and really understand how profound it is and how important it is that we affirm the fact that, yes, it's okay to have a love for your people. You don't have to be dishonest about that. And that's what we find. There's a lot of dishonesty in people where they don't want to acknowledge what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala established in us. So
Yusuf, you need to give
and
this
standing ovation for me.
You want to stand up? All right. Listen. Yes, I was gonna say we've never had back-to-back round of applauses, but
Wow.
that was three of them. That was three of them right there. Right? In all seriousness,
Mashallah.
to kind of wrap that up, 100% I agree with everything that you said. People, other different colors and or races believe, when somebody is saying that they love, when somebody tells me. A lot of the stuff I focus on is in the Muslim community, and you have a lot of Yemeni people come on the show. I'm like, yeah, it's because nobody else is doing it. That's what I tell them. People get mad at me for or they don't get mad, but they question me, and I tell them it's because if Fox or CNN or ABC was doing it, then I wouldn't be doing this.
That's right.
But this is why I'm doing it, because someone, you have to do it. It's okay to love what you're doing. It's okay to love who you are as a person. It's okay to love what you believe in. And especially with the history of African Americans, it goes deep of, like you said, it's strategical, it's very strategic till this day of how things were in the African and Black community. And so it's just very sad and to see people that have the nerve to tell people that, oh man, you love your people too much, or you love your kind too much. Like it's crazy to me because it's still going on. It's still going on, and it's wild. But I'm very happy that you said that. That was awesome, man. It's been a great conversation. It's been a great conversation so far, alhamdulillah.
And
So
as long as you're respecting other cultures and other races,
that's
there's
why-
nothing wrong with that.
that's why the hadith that you mentioned is so perfect because it's exactly. I don't use those exact words, but I literally tell that to my students. Love yourself. As long as you're not like putting your foot down on somebody else while doing that, you're fine. You know, I know that's not what the hadith specifically says, but I'm happy now that you brought this hadith to me because now I know that there's actually something behind it as well. You know, because you gotta love yourself first, especially like in the healing process, man. Like people gotta know, like a lot of people, man, they've been dealing with stuff that they don't probably even tell you in front, in front of you. You know, behind the scenes at home, they probably don't even have parents that tell them that they love them. Some of these students don't even have the parents that say that they love them. So, you know, or there's adults who never had a parent. So now they're learning to love themselves at the age of 30, 35, 40.
Correct.
And people are getting knocked for that. And it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Woo!
You know?
We need a standing
Yeah,
ovation
let's
for
say
that.
you deserve a round of
Let's go. Let's go.
All I did was copy what he just said.
Copy paste.
Yeah.
No.
I use my own words a little bit, but Sada, what is your thoughts? Like, you know, what is the thing that you feel like is holding back unity in Islam? Is it religion? Is it, I'm sorry, race? Is it gender?
Segregation of all those aspects. All those aspects are getting segregated. It comes from the race, from the culture, from the gender, from everything. You know, everyone likes to make their own rules. Everyone wants to take a certain perspective and make it their own rule and stamp it on them. And like how you said earlier about the supremacy of
Spiritual supremacy.
yeah. Honestly, I feel like it's culture supremacy that comes first. Especially in the Hamtramck, Dearborn, like in this little, you know,
Metro
It's
Detroit.
Metro
everywhere.
Detroit area.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
It's culture. Culture is taking over versus, well, you know, we have the Quran that literally tells us exactly how to live our lives. But I think culture is taking over, and you know, obviously everyone has beauty in culture, in their culture. But when you're taking it to feel like you're better or you're this, you're that, that's where the line draws, and you know, everything gets messy.
For sure. I mean, what are your thoughts? What's holding back unity in Islam?
Wow. I'm still kind of in the process of, you know, understanding everything that the brother was saying. But I love the emphasis of loving yourself. But the second part, I want to kind of emphasize the second part, which is, you know, not being a part of something that's wrong. So, or not following your, you know, community if they're doing something that's wrong. So when it comes to imams, right? Okay, first of all, let's break it down to households. The leader of the households are, you know, is usually the man of the house, right? And then
She
the
about
leader
to
of
get
the
deep.
Yeah, she is.
I should feel it.
She's winding up.
I'm starting to feel it.
the leader of the community is the imam.
That's
The
right.
imam is the imam of the community, the people in the community, right?
That's all right.
But I see now, like you know, in the community that we grew up in, that's all I can speak from is the one that we grew up in. They are the leader of whoever's following them. They are not the leader of the community.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like where the disconnect is.
Wow.
So,
SubhanAllah.
and the way that because, you know, I have a son and he's growing up and he's becoming a young man. It worries me that, you know, I really don't have that connection to a certain imam that would hear us out in that aspect. So for me, it's like if you're in a small community, the imam should get together and be like, what are you struggling with? What is your you know, community struggling? Let's work together. We're seeing this a common you know, aspect within the youth. Let's do something that we can bring together so we could all feel that brotherly love or that sisterly love. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And like Sada was saying, it's culture, it's race, it's greed,
And ego.
and ego.
It's even the segregation in like with Islam in a sense of like if you're Sunni, you're Shia, you know, that plays a big role as well. And it's not,
The ideologies, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, Sister Davine, what you got for us? What's the biggest?
Oh, I'm just piggybacking on what I hear. And so since you led up to it, my experience recently, and I'm speaking about since I've been you know, did I share with you all at the beginning of the show that I used to be a chair at Ford Motor Company and UAW, had about 2,500 people total, and I was younger, you know. I can tell you that the politics at Local 600 have little on the politics inside the masjids and the communities at times.
Wow.
And I think the difference for me personally is that I didn't used to really feel no kind of way other than getting reelected. Like, oh, I better watch this group of people, this team, having issues and not addressing them, or, maybe the high-low drivers are having an issue. But when I think about that in hindsight, and I think about what we're dealing with right now, it comes right back to, and it's funny, it's like you've been sitting right with us. Your first imam is in the household, and then some parents or some households lack having a lead in the house, right? So then they need to come to the community. But if they don't see leadership in the community, they're going to go to the streets. And so now we ask ourselves why we continuously having the kids getting into trouble, going into the dunya, smoking the weed, getting high, having babies, without being married, and all the systemic things that happen from not following the deen, right? It's because, in my opinion, just being an onlooker and in my experience, is that you can't get people away from I'm the imam conversation instead of saying, as the imam, what is my role and responsibility? Even if that means you got to come out your comfort zone to reach across and say, hey, imam so-and-so, or hey, brother so-and-so, or sister so-and-so, or network with people who can get the resources. Because it's not just about just knowing the Quran or just leading Salat. If you are not leading the community and dealing with the things that stop us from coming and praying and stop us from picking up the Quran and reading, then how effective are you really?
100%.
And that's not me questioning my imam or anybody else's imam. It's just I can tell you any community right now that's suffering with that. By the way, our imam is from Gambia, Imam Mamadou Cisse, and he's African. And so I will tell you that we've had many conversations just here recently about sometime the disconnect of him not being from the streets of Detroit, right? What do you say to, and not to put him on Front Street, there's, much love and respect, but we just had these conversations, and it can't just be our community that's having these conversations. I know it's affecting everybody's community, and they're not having the conversations, shame on them, but at least, we're trying to toughen up and have these conversations, because just recognizing the needs of the community. When you hear people crying out for help, and then you're in a place of responsibility, you're supposed to stand up and doing it. Khalil, what I wanted to say is, when the sister was talking, what is the conversation when she said culture is overtaken? It doesn't, the Prophet ﷺ says that an Arab is not better than a black or white. We're all equal, right? So when somebody asks me sometime, and y'all were talking, so I was reflecting, somebody say, what are you? And I say, I'm Muslim. They say, no, what are you? And I know what they're asking me. Are you Sunni? Are you Shia?
Yes.
Are you Nation of Islam? Or, again, I'm Muslim. That's it.
That's what I say too.
That's it.
That's how it should be.
We didn't grow up, honestly, I don't know, like I can speak. We didn't grow up, I did not know about, this is going to make me sound
The different
so stupid.
denominations.
Yes, I did not know about Sunni or Shia until I got to college.
Dig that.
Really?
Literally, I did not know, because it did not come up, and growing up in Hamtramck, it never came up.
I knew about it. I just didn't know what were the differences.
Yeah.
You know,
I
but
never knew
thought-
until one of my classmates went to go to the prayer room, and she had her rock. And I was like, oh, what's that? And she's like, oh, I'm Shia. And I'm like, she's like, what are you? I was like, Muslim? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I never, that was the first time I ever
You
seen
see, how,
it.
you see how we complicate things, though, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're just Muslim.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we complicate things. I mean, this could go back, way back, but I'm just saying, like, we tend to complicate things, but.
So I was it's so weird y'all said that. You said college. I think I knew that there were different denominations in Islam. I didn't really know the differences based on experience, but I just remember us potlucking a lot when we were younger, and it just meant either I was eating some goat or some lamb or something. I was like, I don't eat goat. And then it's like, well, don't stand over here and this line, because we were all potlucking. So it depends on where somebody was from, what the dish they were bringing, right? So that was kind of the only, those are kind of the only differences that I kind of remember until I got grown. And I can remember going to the big masjid over on Ford Road, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were all coming in. I think we were there for, I don't know, maybe a wedding or something. But either way, it was so, oh, no. It wasn't that preacher came to Dearborn, was trying to burn the Quran, right? But it was so many people packed in that masjid, and we were all praying, right? But all of a sudden, everybody's arms had went down to the side. And some of us, our hands are like here. And I can remember some conversations overhearing some sisters saying, they have their hands on their chest. And I'm thinking like, yeah, but we're praying.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, whether you praying like this, rather you praying like this. I know some people who, when they, before they talk beers, they're doing all like this. All I could think about is look at all these people praying together, and it really doesn't. So we'll make things complicated. We said this when this brother came to town last year. I can't think of his name, and I said that I deal with a lot of people at work, and at work there's always a conversation. It's like, I thought Muslims ain't supposed to do this, and they ain't supposed to smoke weed. I said, listen, don't tell me Muslims don't smoke weed. Don't tell me they ain't supposed to drink, because I'll tell you Christians ain't supposed to do it either. However, what I will tell you is that God's word is perfect, not people, right? So in recognizing that, that's where we digress, right? Because as people, we have a tendency to want to find fault on everybody else. Now, I swear, if you got time to find fault on everybody else, you better relook at yourself.
100%.
And that's a fault in of itself. You trying to find faults in everybody else.
Absolutely. So I have tried to adapt, and I'm constantly getting reminders of, not growing older and becoming people. Because one of the things the youth are constantly saying to us these days are they don't feel like we hear them. And I understand that, because sometimes I feel like the pioneers that are above me don't hear me,
100%.
right? And that's
We
with
wanna
all due
break that.
respect.
We wanna break that
How do we break it, right? We have to have these hard conversations. We can't stay mad at each other. We got to meet people where they are on their journey, right? And sometimes that's very hard to do. And so when we speak about what's holding us back, we're holding us back, right? That's my 2 cents.
I love it.
Clap that up one more time, Yusuf Dabo. Appreciate that, man. Very great conversation. Double claps. Double claps. All right. By the way, that's not Yusuf. That's the crowd that we have here. Shout out to the crowd. Yeah.
They've been so patient.
Yes. All right. My final question is, and I know you kind of mentioned it, but what can we do? If y'all want to give a final last, advice to people, maybe that's listening. What can individuals do? What can groups of people do? So that, we can do a better job with this unity and Islam thing and bringing people together. I don't think I've started with you in a while now. What is your thoughts?
I think that everybody should look within themselves first. Be the change that you want to see. Like you said in the beginning, you're like, if you want to see a difference, then you come and volunteer, or come, start up the conversation. So start at home. Teach your kids. Be the example for the kids. Because you could always say something to them, but you got to actually do it, because a lot of your kids, watch you.
That's right.
And they watch what you're saying. They watch what you're doing. So be that example. And if you're around people that are being a certain way, check them.
That's right.
Honestly, put them in check. Be like, listen, that wasn't cool.
That's right.
Because sometimes, people mess up. And if you want to be a friend that's going to help your friend grow as well, you're going to let them know how, what you think and what they can do better. And just be present and helping the community, be present with the people that are around you, be nicer to your neighbors, be the example. Us women, we wear hijabs, we're the example, walking example of Islam.
That's right.
So we have to be a certain way, we have to carry ourselves a certain way. We need to be nicer, focus on the positives, not, be that person that's always looking at someone's negatives. And just, if you see a sister or a brother struggling, be there for them.
That's right.
Sada, what are your thoughts?
Stop judging. Don't feel like just because you know this much of information about your religion, in some may lack. Don't judge them. Don't knock them down when they encourage them. Be more positive. Be the example that you want to see, like that.
Sister Davine?
Just like the sisters both said, we got to look at self first. I feel like we got to be like Michael Jackson. We have to look at that man in the mirror. But more than that, again, if you want to see some change, be that person that helps affect change positively. Get involved. If you can't come and donate money. Come give your time. Come and mentor some children. Come and talk to us and say who's sick and shut in. Who haven't we seen out here in the community in the last few months, in the last few June months? Are they sick? Oh, let's get together and get a few of us together and take a meal over to them. Let's reach across and, like you were saying, hey, we're having common issues in our communities. I know one of our members of our masjid, Imam Mikhail Sadiq Stewart, he is also the chair of the Michigan Muslim, the Imams Council.
CIOM. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the
okay.
way, on our show, by the way.
Okay,
And
cool.
Michael, we had a great episode. That episode.
Alhamdulillah,
yeah.
he's but it's an opportunity there. It's an opportunity.
That's me. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm going to say, is that me? I turned it
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
There's an opportunity there for the imams to evolve more than. I can't say what they don't do because alhamdulillah for the job they're doing, right? It has to be hard in these hard times, but we have to do more. And if our imams need help, they need support, we got to do more. And we also have to be real about what we expect out of for our communities. We have to evaluate what are we doing. We have to have those hard conversations with each other. And like you said, if you sitting around some people and they're making some bogus comments, check them. And you don't got to be mad about it or be mean about it. But I used to hear birds of a feather flock together. My mother used to say that to me all the time. And she was really saying to me, if that girl is acting loose and you're her friend, you may not be, but they're going to think that you are. Well, if you're sitting around some people who are not being in their best conduct, and you don't check them or correct them, the assumption is you're just like them, right?
Yeah.
So we got to do better. I not say that as a reminder to myself first and foremost. I get passionate very quickly about what I care about. You don't find me getting passionate about everything. I don't have the energy, but the things that I care about, and like Khalil said, Brother Khalil, my family first and foremost, my community, and other Muslims and just the world. It's not anybody that I don't have compassion for. Even people that's made me mad, I still have love for them,
Love more.
inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Brother Khalil, what advice you got for the people out there, man?
Alhamdulillah. I think, what we're doing here right now is a very good way for us to attempt to move this issue forward, and make some progress in that area. It's, really, it boils down to, recommitting to our intent to serve Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. You know what I mean? Because, in attempting to serve Allah sincerely, you will have to confront yourself. You know what I mean? And really serving Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is the only thing that forces you to take long, hard looks at who you are and what you do. You know what I'm saying? So these are things that, you talk about the symptoms and the reasons why people don't come together. These are things that exist at an unconscious level a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes, moving in different spaces, not being insulated in a community that is predominantly one culture, one way of thinking, you don't really have to confront yourself in terms of how you react to other cultures and other peoples. So when you move around in different spaces and, you get an opportunity to experience yourself, you know what I mean? And pay attention to your heart, pay attention to any differences that might be there. You know what I mean? So it really, in my opinion, it boils down to recommitting ourselves to serving Allah and making, our lives, our relationships, an expression and extension of our desire to please Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and then that transfers over to our marriage, that transfers over to, how we treat our neighbors, everything kind of comes into place. And just as a final note, I would remind us of how essential, how important it is, particularly in these days and times, that we do enhance our ability to work together, because Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بَعْدَهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْدٍ إِلَّا تَفْعَلُوهُ تَكُنْ فِتْنَةٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَفَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ. Right? He says the disbelievers help and assist one another. If you don't do this, there will be great corruption and oppression on the earth, right? So if we look outside our doors, it's one thing we can see. We can see some corruption going on. You know what I'm saying? We can see some fitna going on, right? And so a lot of times we don't associate how perverse society is becoming with our own actions. You know what I'm saying? And even just by abstaining, by not being active in this effort to help and assist one another, by inactivity, we can be playing an active role in how perverse society becomes and how fitness spreads. And so I think that that's a very interesting ayat for a number of reasons. But one, here was one of the only scenarios I know where Allah is telling us to be like the disbelievers, right? So he's saying be like them in the fact that they help and assist one another, right? And if you don't, then there's going to be this great consequence. And so, you know, this is not some secondary issue for us. You know, it's primary. We need to put this issue at the forefront. You know, how well are we collaborating? How well are we working together? And through that process of checking ourselves and our sincerity, you know, mukhlisina lahuddin, you know, making our religion, you know, pure for Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, the growth is in that, you know, challenging ourselves to be present in different spaces and work with different people. The growth is in that. May Allah help us.
I mean,
I mean, you know, it's subhanAllah how that ayah reflects on our lives today, till this day, you know, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that's happening in the world is because we're not together, and so therefore the disbelievers are together, and that's why they are running and making the decisions that we are living with consequently. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's subhanAllah how that kind of that ayah reflects on what's going on right now in our world. Believe it or not, what a show. Can I give a round of applause just for the whole show? The whole show. Listen, I gave her the password. Like this I Hate Tony stuff is serious. You know, we have a sports show. One of my co-hosts, he's actually my cousin. We joke around. He's like the guy that we love but hate because he's not afraid.
Gotta have that guy.
Yeah.
Gotta have that guy.
Fahmi Hussein, you might know him. But anyways, long story short, you know, funny that he pressed that button. So like anytime he said something bad, we just, I hate Tony. I had my daughter say that. All right, with that said, first of all, by the way, we don't promote hate. Like I said, we actually love the guy. YouTube, Oz Media 313. This is how you can follow us. Facebook and Instagram, Motivate Me 313. You can listen to the show later. As soon as we're done with the show, I'm going to get on that laptop. You can listen to it on Apple and Spotify podcasts. TikTok, Oz Media. I had a phone call. That's why I keep my phone on law. It says Davine because we do accept phone calls. I know we didn't have nobody call in. That was my uncle trying to talk to me about something else. But the number is 313-306-1750. Future reference if you want to call in. Shout out to our sponsors, Balkan House, Hanley, Qahwa House, BC Adhesives. We appreciate them as well. Any final words you guys want to say before we close this one out? This was a great episode, by the way. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
So pleasure meeting you.
Likewise,
Thank
all
you.
of you all.
Amazing people, mashallah.
MashaAllah, they do great things in the community and everything. So go ahead.
I was going to say that even with the people like us, because we're just two people that have a lot of people that are examples to us or give us advice or pave the way for us. One thing that I can tell you, it was probably sometime this summer, and I was trying to balance work life and motherhood and grandmahood and my responsibilities that I've accepted as at the Muslim Center. And Imam Yusuf, he reminded me, he said, Sister Davine, it's not enough just to make the 5 prayers a day. You have to increase your dhikr and you have to call upon Allah. So when I find myself getting irritated, and I can't believe I didn't bring my dhikr beads today, but it has really been working for me. I dhikr to myself or on my fingers, and I say, Ya Latif, or whatever dhikr comes to mind. And it really, in that second, gives me peace. So I really, amongst everything that's difficult, like we know that Allah says where there's difficulty, the ease is there. I stopped trying to focus off on negative and just focus on what I can do and trying to just re-energize to do better. And so, and I pulled that strength from Allah. So that was great advice for me. And it's just a reminder because obviously we've been listening to this our whole life, but it's great to have people that are around you that give you good reminders of Allah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, brother Khalil, you wanna any final?
Yeah, check us out. You know, check out chilldon'tkill.org and see the work that we're doing in community. Alhamdulillah, we have our Turkey Day giveaway that we've been doing the past couple of years, coming up November 19th. So, we're welcoming donations to try to make this one bigger and better. The cost of the turkey per pound has gone up significantly this year. So we're actually asking that the community help us in, this expression of love and in the community that this particular community has come to love and appreciate from the Muslims being out and being present in community. And also tap into us with the Detroit Dawah Project on Facebook. You can search that and Chill Don't Kill as well. And inshallah, we appreciate the opportunity so much, Akhi. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah.
No
Thank you
problem.
so much.
No problem. Thank you, Sada and Abid. You got any final words before
I
we shut this down?
appreciate you guys for coming through.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
I always like being in a room with people that are smarter than me or more knowledgeable
Yeah.
than back. So this
That happens a lot, huh?
Allahumma barik. Yeah.
That's brother sister love.
I'll give it to him today. I'll give him to him.
Don't
He
beat him up in
saved
front
me. We had a quick PD at school. It wasn't quick, but we had how now with the active shooters in school. So we had
Alice training. Have you
Alice
ever heard of
training.
Alice
So it
training?
was specifically for active shooters, and they want us to actually react instead of just lock ourselves in the room. So there was a situation where we had to act like we're running out of the room, and one of my coworkers came from the side, and I fell, and then he stayed and helped me up. So
Alhamdulillah.
at that moment, I was like, "Oh, that's my brother."
Yeah, that's what's
But I just want to let you know.
So he could slide making a couple jokes on me. That's okay.
The guy, it was a Nerf gun, so that's why I was confident. I was like, "Come on, girl, I can help you out." This.
See, you was ahead of the game, Brother Omar. I was going to say, the parable with that is when you see your brother and sister fall, go pick them up.
There you go.
100%.
You know what
I
I'm
should have
saying?
stopped. I should've
What if you're the reason that they fail? What if you tripped them? No, I'm just kidding.
No, in all seriousness, that was a funny situation. I'm telling her, I'm like, because the lady that was practicing with the Nerf gun, she was shooting me. So look, I'm getting shot because of you right now. And I'm picking her up. Like, we gotta be serious about this, But it was a good day. This was an awesome show. Thank you for coming on. Alhamdulillah. Appreciate y'all coming on. And again, feel free to subscribe to our channels, and we will see you all next week. We got some deep conversations coming up these next couple weeks. I don't know. It just worked out in November, but there's some very deep combos. Like next week, we got two brothers who, got out of prison for a long sentence. So they're coming here and they're gonna be sharing their story, and they're gonna it's uncut and raw. If you're a young kid,
Is this my brother Dawood?
not brother Dawood,
Because he on here, he looking.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Text
shout out to brother Dawood as well, man. We appreciate him over there. All the great things that he does as well at the Muslim Center as well. A guy full of energy too, man. Mashallah, alhamdulillah. So shout out to everybody. Yusuf.